Hello friends and fellow bibliophiles, welcome back to Cat's Novel Adventures. In today's video, I am sharing my Summerween vlog with all of my reading adventures for the week. Good morning, everyone. Happy Marvelous Monday. I am finally able to have a moment to share with you what I have been reading for Summerween. I actually got a late start. I didn't start reading anything for Summerween until Saturday, and that is because I was finishing up Beloved, which I needed to get finished because I am co-hosting with Kelsi a live discussion of Beloved on her channel for the Midnight Book Society book club. So I'm super excited about that, but I had to get it finished. I kicked off Summerween with reading for the prompt of orange or black on the cover, and I chose The Spider and the Fly, which is based on a poem written by Mary Howitt and illustrated by the fantastic Toni. This is a wonderfully dark, delightful, and splendidly sinister picture book. It has all the feels for Halloween, in my opinion. But it's about this cunning spider over here who wants to invite the naive little fly into his home. And he starts off by offering her some dinner and a place to sleep. And of course, she has heard rumors about Mr. Spider and how anyone that goes into his den doesn't usually come back out again. But it is so wonderful. I love this story. And of course, even despite all of her hesitations, she is still starry-eyed because the spider continues to flatter her. And basically the moral of this story is beware of those who flatter and act really friendly, because not everyone who is acting that way has your best interest at heart. Oh, I forgot to mention that I gave The Spider and the Fly 5 stars because, of course, it is fantastic, and in my opinion, it is the perfect Halloween read. Next up is The Sundog by Stephen King. I chose this one to read in the dark or at nighttime, and that's what I'm doing. I'm reading it at nighttime, and I'm not doing very well. And I think it's because by the time I actually get to read it in bed, I'm tired. Now, of course, I just started on Saturday. I am literally on page 20, and Barry and I ended up reading. Barry and I ended up watching Scream 2 Saturday night, and then I started The Sundog. Well, this is a Castle Rock story. It has Pop Merrill in it, and for those of you that have read Needful Things, he is mentioned in here because he happens to be Ace Merrill's uncle. And Ace Merrill is in Needful Things, and he also appears in The Body, and he is kind of a villain. Now, Pop, as far as I know, that I've gotten up to so far, is he runs a junk shop. And let me see what the name of this junk shop is. It's the Emporium or something like that. He's like a Mr. Fix-It. Damn. Emporium Galorium is what it is called. Anyhow, the whole reason why we even see Pop Merrill at the Emporium Galorium is because Kevin, who is our main character in the story, he receives a Polaroid camera for his birthday. He really had been wanting this. And he's so excited. He loads up the film and he starts taking pictures, and every picture is basically the same. So at first he thinks something must be wrong. Either I loaded the camera wrong, or something is defective. So his parents are like, well, we can take it back. I'm sure we can get a refund and we could get, another one. They'll honor it or whatever. And he says, no, I'd like to give it a chance. So then he talks to a teacher at school, and his teacher, Mr. Baker, suggests that he brings it over to Pop Merrill and let Pop Merrill look at it. So that's what Kevin does. And I'm at the point where Pop Merrill looks at it and he doesn't see anything wrong with it. And so now Kevin's at a point of, what am I supposed to do with this camera? So far I'm liking it, but like I said, I'm only 20 pages in and I'm curious about this camera, but I need to spend some more time reading it. I didn't get very far, and I think it's because I'm waiting to read it at nighttime when I'm in bed and I'm falling asleep because I am just pooped. In addition to reading The Sundog, I also started my thriller, and that is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I actually started this morning, and I'm already to page 55. I really am enjoying this. This starts off right out the gate. It is about a painter named Alicia who's married to a famous photographer, and one evening when her husband comes home from work, she's there and she ties him up actually, and then shoots him in the face like 5 times, and then she tries to kill herself. She is taken into custody, she goes to trial, and they realize, because she's not speaking, like she did not speak from the moment the police found her up until this point, they have decided that she has a plea of diminished responsibility. So instead of going to jail for a lengthy amount of time, they put her in a facility where she will be treated there. It's called The Grove. Our story is being told by a forensic psychotherapist named Theo Faber, which I think this is so hilarious. I don't know if you'll think this is funny, but this is the 3rd book that I have read that has a Theo in it within the last few weeks. I read The Man in the Picture, which had a professor named Theo Parmenter, and then I read My Heart is a Chainsaw for my slasher readathon, and that had a Theo Mondragon in it. Now I'm reading The Silent Patient, and it has a Theo Faber in it. So not sure if that's just a popular literary character name, Theo. But anyway, Theo actually has his own issues and had a really rough childhood and had a hard time even going into college. And once he starts seeing his own therapist, things fall into place for him, and then he ends up going into psychotherapy as well. He's married. He has a real interest in Alicia's case. So he was working at one place called Broadmoor, and when a job opening came up for a forensic psychotherapist at the Grove, he decided to apply for it, and he got it. And the whole reason is he wants to have his opportunity to see if he can make a breakthrough with Alicia. and figure out what caused her to do such a terrible thing to her husband. But I'm liking it so far, and it really is very interesting. So I'm pretty much spending the rest of Summerween reading The Sundog and The Silent Patient. However, I am hosting sprints on my channel Wednesday afternoon, and I've decided to use my sprinting to read the other two stories to fulfill the rest of the prompts. And that is my manga, which is the first volume of Demon Slayer. And then for the story that takes place in the fall, I am reading another ghost story from my Susan Hill collection called Printer's Devil Court. So I'm excited about both of those, and I think I can get both of those stories read during my sprinting time. I just have to be better about reading The Sundog. I think I just have to, right when it gets dark, start reading it at that point, because waiting until I'm getting into bed has not worked so far. But anyway, I'm excited about everything I'm reading and enjoying my first Summerween.
Beloved was making her pay for it, but there would never be an end to that. And seeing her mother diminished, shamed and infuriated her. Yet she knew Setha's greatest fear was the same one Denver had in the beginning.
Like, the Garners were still perpetuating slavery.
Well,
so in that way, it wasn't any
better.
better.
You still had a contract, so think about it. I mean, when you get married to somebody, you sign a contract, basically, that you're going to be husband and wife until death do us part, or
and
whatever.
Yet you never had a contract between.
But they could not. They couldn't be contract. They couldn't, because they had a contract with their owner.
Which is another way of dehumanizing them, which is another horrible thing that it makes you think about.
Hey everyone, it is Tuesday morning and I just left the doctor's office and I'm about to go to the post office, and I thought, let me update you on how my reading is going for Summerween. I am making good progress in The Silent Patient. I have actually learned a little bit about Alicia because there are some diary entries that were written in July prior to, of course, her husband's death. And we learn a little bit about her feelings towards him, what kind of a painter she is. And then we're also learning the backstory of Theo Faber, who is the forensic psychotherapist who is allowed to start treating her. And something really crazy happens, and we also find out something very crazy about Theo Faber as well that is very shocking to his system in his personal life. So we've got those two things going on. It really is thrilling, I guess is the best way to say it. I'm having a good time with it. As far as The Sundog, I did get some reading done after my live chat with Kelsi about Beloved last night, but I didn't get nearly as much as I wanted. I told you that Pop Merrill didn't really see anything wrong with the camera physically, like there was nothing for him to fix on the camera physically. However, he does make a suggestion to Kevin that there might be something more supernatural related to it, which is pretty funny because Kevin's sister suggests that, but of course he just kind of, shushes her because she likes all kinds of scary movies and things, and so he just thinks it's her imagination. But Pop Merrill is able to look at the Polaroids very closely with this little magnifying, like a jeweler's magnifying glass, and he discovers something happening in the pictures. Something ominous is in those pictures as well. So Pop suggests that Kevin takes some more photographs so it could test a theory that Pop has, but Pop doesn't want to tell him the theory until after the photos are taken. I'm at that point of what's going to happen. Kevin's dad is also going to be getting involved, and I'm not sure what role he's going to play, but it's picking up and more of the story is getting fleshed out, so we'll see what happens. Anyway, I gotta go to the post office. Talk to you all later. Bye.
I to figure out who my narrator is. They haven't said, unless it's you, Meredith, that wrote a letter at the beginning. I'm not quite sure, but it is Printer's Devil Court is actually the house where these 4 medical students live, and the narrator is a junior doctor, and they're studying medicine, and we learn a little bit about each of the characters.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is 12:22 here in Louisiana on Thursday. This is our last day of Summerween, and I wanted to do a quick check-in of where I'm at. First of all, I am still reading The Sundog by Stephen King. I am currently on page 125. I have 69 pages left and I will be finished. Of course, I'm reading it at nighttime, so this is what I will be reading tonight to finish it. I'm liking it better, and I think it's because I have been able to spend more time in the evenings with it. I will say that Pop Merrill is one sly fox, and I'm afraid that Pop Merrill might have gotten a little bit over his head with what he did with Kevin's camera. I don't want to go into too many details because I do not want to give spoilers, but it is really interesting what Pop Merrill is getting himself into. I just don't know how it's going to end yet, and that is what I'm trying to figure out. There is supernatural, paranormal forces at work. I will say that. As far as The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, I am still enjoying this. This is really like cat and mouse kind of thing. Like you read part of Alicia's journal and you're like, okay, that seems a little odd, because you're getting her perspective about different people in her life. And Theo Faber, who is the forensic psychotherapist, is kind of interviewing some of the people that he's really not supposed to be interviewing, but he's meeting with them to kind of get a feel of what Alicia was like as far as their relationships. And the version that he's getting is a little bit different from what Alicia is writing in her journal. So is Alicia an unreliable person when she's writing in her journal? You would think people who are writing in a journal would be honest, but I mean, who knows? And then are the people that Theo is talking to, are they being 100% honest? It's really unclear at this point. But I will say, I'm not the biggest fan of Theo. I think he's kind of wimpy. And 2 incidents have happened, and I'm like, dude, at the rate you're going, you're going to be put into a coma. You know, you clearly have had to have had 2 concussions at this point. But I'm sticking with it, and I'm hoping that he will come through. I am on page 165. I have 159 pages to go, and I plan to read throughout today The Silent Patient. Hopefully I can finish this one before it gets dark, and I will have this book under my belt for sure as far as the thriller goes. Last night I hosted sprints, and my goal was to read Printer's Devil Court by Susan Hill for my story that takes place in the fall, and then also to read a manga, which this would be my first manga, and that is Demon Slayer Volume 1. I finished Printer's Devil Court, and I started Demon Slayer, and actually finished Demon Slayer this morning, and wow. I love it, and I cannot wait to finish the series because I really was blown away. It was my first manga. I have nothing to compare it to except to anime, and really those are 2 different mediums, so I can't really 100% compare it in the truest sense. However, I really did enjoy it. It exceeded my expectations. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did, but it is about a young guy named Tanjiro who sells charcoal to help support his family, and he lives in the mountains with his mother and siblings, and he decides to go into the village to sell some charcoal, and then he's going to come back. However, it's getting late and he really shouldn't be out when it gets dark because there is the fear of demons. So he stays with a neighbor overnight, but the next morning when he gets home, his family has been slaughtered. And of course, he immediately thinks a bear has attacked his family. Everyone is gone except his sister Nezuko. She is breathing, and then she comes alive, and she is a demon and tries to attack Tanjiro. But it's his sister, so he's going to help her, and he's trying to get her back to the town so they can see a doctor so he can figure out what to do. She keeps trying to bite him because apparently these demons need human flesh to survive. Well, as they're trying to travel, he meets up with a demon slayer whose name is Giyu Tomioka. That's him right there. And at first he's confused as to why Tanjiro is with a demon, and then Tanjiro explains, this is my sister, I have to help. So he recommends that Tanjiro takes his sister to see Sakonji Urokodaki. He lives at the foot of Mount Sagiri, so that he can ask to be trained to be a demon slayer swordsman and to see what can be done for his sister. Well, they make it there. The old man agrees to take him under his wing and train him. His sister ends up falling into a coma, this deep sleep. She's alive, but, not really responsive. So Tanjiro spends a lot of time training and encounters demons. The demons are creepy, I will say. They have powers that allow them to do things. They're very hard to kill. There's certain elements that can kill them, but they are not a group of entities or beings that you really would like to fight with. But Tanjiro really ends up proving himself. And of course, the story ends with a cliffhanger. So that's what I'm saying. I have to finish the series to find out if he accomplishes what he needs to. The one thing I was, not 100% surprised, but love seeing it because you see it in anime is there's plenty of heart. There is some humor despite the horrific circumstances. But yeah, if you haven't tried a manga, I would say try this out. It's creepy in some parts, but it also has lots of heart to it also. And did I say it's a 5-star read from me? Let me tell you about the short story Printer's Devil Court by Susan Hill, which is part of the Woman in Black and Other Ghost Stories collection. I really love this. I was teetering last night between 4.5 and 5 stars, but by the end of the story and after thinking about it a little bit, I gave it 5 stars. It definitely was well worth it. I enjoyed the atmosphere of it, and I enjoyed how it was set up, the format of it. It starts off where a letter is being written to someone who is receiving a book by Hugh Meredith. Hugh Meredith kept notes and wrote a book about an experience that he had when he was in medical school, and then what happens and transpires afterwards. Basically, when you open the book, the story is being told by Hugh, and then by the end of the story, you find out that the person that received it was Hugh's stepson, Laurie, and Laurie kind of wraps up the rest of the short story and kind of tightens up the loose ends, let's say. But it is about you and 3 other medical students who are in their junior year of medical school at a hospital in London, and 2 of his flatmates decide that, well, they're not really flatmates, I guess. They live in a house. Would that be flatmates if they live in the house? I don't know. But they live in a house on Printer's Devil Court. That's the name of the street wherever they're at, which is close to a graveyard. So that's kind of creepy if you think about it. Anywho, he lives there with these three medical students, and he's really good friends with James out of the other three. The other two, Raffi and William, they just are, I think Raffi is a little more standoffish and all about his research and not really about the patients. And William is kind of sly, but he seems very jovial. They, one night, all four of them are enjoying, brandy or whatever, and kind of talking about school and what have you. And Raffi and William decide to broach a subject with James and you about the possibility of bringing back the dead, like bringing them back to life. And they start the conversation off with referring to different stories that happen in the Bible as a segue to kind of get them to think about the possibility and what could happen for the medical community if they could do this. Well, James doesn't want to have anything to do with it. Yu is a little skeptical, but he's like, sure. And he is sworn to secrecy. Well, as things go on and time goes on after they've set up their laboratory and all this stuff, one night you get summoned to come to be a witness to their experiment. And it is very interesting what happens as a result of that experiment. And that's where I'm going to stop because I do not want to give any more details. You will need to read it for yourself if you want to know what happens. But really well written, very atmospheric, and I have to say, this story ended a little bit differently than the other stories that I read. I mentioned in my other vlog that I've been noticing a pattern with some of these stories, which I only have one more story to read, and that is The Small Hand. That is where I'm at for Summerween as of today, and I'm hoping that I can finish The Silent Patient before it gets dark, and then I'm hoping that I can finish The Sundog tonight. Good morning, it's Friday and Summerween has officially ended. It ended last night. I did get to finish The Silent Patient. What a disappointment. I was really disappointed. I was on page 165 yesterday, read throughout the day, and finished it last night. First half of the book I was loving. It was what I would consider thrilling. Theo Faber was starting to get on my nerves. He was a little bit annoying, and I really didn't like the, going into his personal life and what he discovered about his wife and all that. Well, that plays a big part overall in it. I found it kind of boring, honestly. Then you realize there's a reason for it, but I didn't like the way it ended up going. I will also say there is a moment where they're describing Alicia holding the gun, with Gabriel being in the chair dead. And it so reminded me of The Unexpected Guest by Agatha Christie, where the unexpected guest who runs off the road ends up going up to the house and discovering the wife with a gun in her hand and her husband slumped over dead in his wheelchair. I just immediately, when they were talking about that particular scene, that's what it reminded me of. But I have to honestly say, the more you read the journal, that was written by Alicia, and the more you got to know other characters, there was a lot of everyone seemed like a suspect, but the characters were just not likable. Really and truly, the only characters that I really liked were Ruth, who happened to be Theo's own personal therapist for many years, and then Indira, who was a colleague of his at the Grove. But otherwise, they were not very likable characters. And like I said, it was really thrilling up to 165, and then it kind of petered out. I don't know. The ending didn't work for me. I was just so disappointed because I wanted to like this, and I know that's an unpopular opinion because so many people love this book, and it was, you know, on the bestseller list. I ended up giving it a 3-star, and I'm thinking of being pretty generous with that. And the reason I am is because up into yesterday, I really was enjoying it. I really was intrigued and just couldn't figure out what happened. A lot of it, I really did think maybe Alicia didn't do it. Maybe somehow she was, you know, not the real killer, that she was set up some way, and that is why she became silent. I don't know. Anyway, that's my thoughts on The Silent Patient. I did not get to finish The Sundog. I am actually on page 138. I think it was on like 69 yesterday or 59. So I have about 50-ish, 60-ish pages to read until I finish. I need to finish, obviously, even though Summerween officially ended yesterday. I'm counting it, you know, for obviously because I've been reading it for this vlog. But it is getting pretty intense. And it's really ironic because The Silent Patient started off with a bang and ended up being a dud. And The Sundog started off kind of slow and is ramping up. So I'm hoping that this will end very satisfactorily so that I can end my Summerween adventure on a high note. That's my hope anyway. So my plan is to finish The Sundog this morning, and then I will wrap up this vlog with my overall thoughts. But we'll see what happens. Well, it's official. I am finished all of my reading for Summerween. I finished The Sundog, woohoo! And guess what? I loved it. I really enjoyed it. It pretty much exceeded my expectations from when I first started reading it. Now, I did attribute it being a slow read in the beginning because I wasn't able to spend as much time in the evenings with it. I was falling asleep before I could really get into the nitty-gritty. But once I was able to spend time with these characters, and once everything transpired at the Emporium Galorium and we find out that Pop Merrill pretty much tricks Kevin because he has some motives of what he wants to do with this Polaroid camera. And of course, if you know anyone knows about Pop Merrill, according to Kevin, he's a wicked skinflint. He's all about the money and how he can make money, and he's in the business of making money. The Emporium Galorium is just pretty much a front for what his real job entails. But Pop ends up making a decision that could be very, very dangerous for not just him and Kevin's family, but for many others in Castle Rock as well. However, Kevin is very intuitive, and he has a little help through his dreams and discovers what Pop Merrill is up to. And because of that, he is pretty much the one that has to intervene and stop whatever's going to happen with this Sundog. But wow, I really, really enjoyed it. Love the writing. I'm giving it 4 stars. And what a wonderful way to end my first ever Summerween readathon. Thanks everyone for watching. I really do appreciate you stopping by and checking out my Summerween vlog. I really had a fantastic first time participating in Summerween. I really wish I could have done a little more activity surrounding the theme. However, overall, I am pretty pleased with everything I read for the week. How about you? Did you participate in Summerween? What were some of your favorites for the week? Let me know in the comments below. You know how much I love chatting with you. In the meantime, stay amazing and be adventurous.